You're good, and everyone can hear you. Proceed.
All right. And then I guess you can see the screen and you can hear me. So we should be all good. And then we can start now. Awesome. So let's start. Today, I'd like to talk to you about the Neovim ecosystem state for plugin developers. But just before we do that, I have to introduce myself. So who am I? I'm a returning speaker. I gave a talk at the VimConf last year. I spoke about how to write plugins for Vim and Neovim. I've been a Vim user for about 7 years, so at this point, I definitely cannot use anything else. I love open source. If you write front end, there is like a huge chance that at least one of my packages is in your node modules. And by the way, do not blame me for the size of your node modules. All of my packages are like tiny. Check my GitHub. I really love dev tooling and static analysis, specifically code analysis. And I do mobile dev tooling and specifically IDE integrations at Meta. This is also a good time to say that this is probably why I found a way to how to capitalize on my experience of writing Vim and Neovim plugins. Um, and yeah, it's also a good time to mention that this talk does not represent the opinions of my employee, but my own. Great. Now you know who I am. Let's move on. So I gave a talk last year. What has changed since then? As you can see, I no longer have the beautiful long dreadlocks. So that happened. I completely gave up on Vim script. Yeah, last year I was like, my talk was primarily in Vim script, and yeah, just like the vast majority of you, I completely rewrote the whole configuration, many of my plugins in Lua. I jumped the trains, the ships. Um, that's it. I'm a Lua convert at this point. So, why this topic? Out of everything I could have talked about, I've also contributed to many Neovim plugins. I've written quite a few my own plugins. I'm pretty sure that every single one of you who uses plugins has at the very least one plugin they have contributed to. So, as both the plugin author, contributor, and the person who uses plugins, I've spent quite a bit of time thinking about how could we make this like ecosystem even better. Like, do we have problems? What is the best thing about it? And all of these thoughts, that's something that I want to share with you today. So let's move on. What are the things that like I absolutely love about this ecosystem? Well, first of all, gotta be the progress. I mean, NeoVim is essentially a fork of Vim that just moves so much faster. Like it's so rapid, it's insane. Like remember just a few years ago, we had to like wait a year for a new NeoVim version. Like how many versions were there like just for the past year? Like we've got all these like great Lua APIs that like allow us to iterate on the plugins or like just our setup so much faster. Like um, creating key maps, user-defined commands, auto commands. We can finally define our themes in Lua as well. Like, isn't it awesome? All of the amazing plugins that came with that, like the telescope, LSP integrations, tree-seater, CMP, like you can go on and on and on about all of the things that like Neovim allowed us to have just due to how fast this ecosystem moves. Oh, by the way, Prime, can you like merge my my video with the screen? Because there isn't going to be anything really important in the bottom right corner. So the next thing is the community. Like it has to be the community. I would even argue that community is more important than progress. Everyone is super friendly. Like it's so easy to contribute to things. Even if you don't know any Lua, you can like open a PR and like people would be willing to guide you to help you make your first contributions. It's awesome. Like I dare you, please try to join the community and not make any friends. It's borderline impossible. And obviously it gotta be the extensibility. It's in the nature of Neovim itself. You can build on top of what Neovim provides. You can build on top of what plugins other people wrote. Incredible. Like I cannot express like the emotions I have about it. I'm like really passionate. But among of the things that I love about Neovim, there are also things that I don't quite like about Neovim. And what are they? Actually, there is just one thing, and it's progress, and that's kind of weird because like wasn't the like progress one of the things that I like love about Neovim? Yeah, it was like on the previous slide. It's also on this slide. It's kind of confusing. So with this great progress, there are also some things that unfortunately they come as a challenge to a regular user with how fast this community and ecosystem moves. A lot of things tend to break occasionally, so we get the breaking changes. Like just in the past year, in all of the years that I've been like Vim and Neovim user, I've never been this stressful about updating my plugins. Just imagine you're starting your week, right? You open up your laptop and you run like an upgrade command, and then all of a sudden something breaks and you have to spend some time to like figure out, oh, was it like my configuration or was it like one of the plugins? Which plugins was it? Like it can basically be a barrier of you being productive at work, and that's something that I want to focus on today, because to be honest, overall the ecosystem is amazing. Like it's the easiest it's ever been to like be productive and like actually write plugins or even maintain plugins for that matter. And there is only this one problem, and it's the breaking changes, and it kind of works as like waterfall, like cascading thing, like. And for some reason, at the very bottom, there's always users there. So obviously, if as a user, you can like screw up your own configuration and like your setup breaks, it's fine. You're the only person to blame. So that's acceptable. Also, we have plugins. So there are plugin authors. They occasionally can introduce some breaking changes, and then as a user, your setup may break when you update the plugin, right? And then there is also Neovim itself. I have to give mad props to the maintainers of Neovim because I think they've done an absolutely amazing job documenting every like breaking change that they've had and like truly going with Semver. So awesome job, everyone. So what else we have here? There is only one solution that overlays all three of those, and that's the package managers. And I think that package managers, these are the tools that would allow us to fix this problem. And let me explain. So what package managers do we have nowadays? In my opinion, Vimplug and Packer are like the two main players in this field nowadays, and there are like a bunch of others. One that's like kind of an underdog, but I'm quite excited about it, is Dep. You should check it out. So we all use package managers to install our plugins, maybe like even manage them a little bit, update them, and stuff like that. And they all have some common features between of them. What are those common features? So perfect plugin manager has to be bootstrappable. This is something when you, let's say you get a new laptop, you check out your configuration, you just open up Neovim the very first time, and the package manager or like a tiny script, just like a one-liner, can download the package manager before the very first time you use it and install all of the plugins for you. That's a very essential feature, I think. All of these package managers, they're also Git-based, so the vast majority of your plugins would be downloaded off some Git hosting like GitHub or some other one. You can pin your plugins by commit, tag, or branch. So this is one of the ways that you can actually mitigate those breaking changes. I'm going to go more in depth in a minute. You can lazy load your plugins. So by just simply using Lua, or if it's still in Vim script, it's auto-loaded. And there is lower rock support, which I do believe currently is still unique to Packer, but it's pretty cool not to have to manually copy-paste Lua or set up like a complicated setup with Git submodules and that kind of thing. And then there is also dependencies ordering. So when you install a plugin, you can specify, hey, this plugin has like a dependency on other plugin. So you can, so the package manager would like load the dependency first before the plugin that you actually want to use, which is quite useful. So how do we actually currently handle the breaking changes? There are some ways that people still use. I've spoken about it last year. I can repeat it again. You can create a stable branch and never push there any of the breaking changes. You can use versioning via Git tags. So for example, Telescope uses the 0.1. So people can just like pin that and make sure that their setup wouldn't break due to some breaking changes being pushed to that tag. Some people also create a breaking changes issue. So consumers of that plugin can subscribe to the issue and be notified when, let's say, some commit introduces a breaking change, and then the comment would explain how to not mitigate, but to fix it. Like what changes to your configuration do you have to make in order to be able to upgrade that plugin? And then also it's sort of a nice manner thing to do is to include breaking in the commit messages. So when you're upgrading your plugins, you would your package manager would like notify you saying that, oh, hey, there is a breaking thing. You probably should look into what exactly changed in that commit. So that's all about today, right? But what if we can like reimagine a package manager for Neovim, and what features will it have to have in order to make it so much better for our experience, and actually maybe even potentially break this, not break, but remove the breaking changes so you can just update your plugins and work, right? So what are those things? First of all, it gotta be support everything we supported before, because we don't want to break backward compatibility. There is the manifest file, log file, and discovery. I'm going to talk about them one by one, right? So manifest file. Think about it as package JSON in NPM or toml.rust in YAML. It's a file that would contain the metadata about your package. You could actually use an actual server package versions, and this way you'd make sure that you'd be safe to download new versions, which is pretty great. You could set up the minimal Neovim version. Due to Neovim, like on the very rare occasions, it would like remove some older APIs, meaning that some plugins could break due to this. This minimal version, not actually minimal version, but just the confines of the version of Neovim that would work with your plugin, could also help the users, since not all plugin authors do check the Neovim version before running their plugin. And then provide a list of dependencies, including perhaps Lua rocks, would be quite useful. So all of the plugin users would not have to manually specify them. Nice. Just genuinely making life so much easier for people who just want to consume your plugin. The other thing is log file. And there is, and I think it's quite a big one, because it would basically allow you to have reproducible setups. The key idea is being reproducible. Think of it like Docker, NixOS, or anything else. Currently, when you set up your dot files on a laptop, right? You write your like packer install, plug install, something else. It just pulls all of the plugins. From my experience, very few people actually pin all of their plugins, which basically makes your setup quite fragile. So if tomorrow you get a new laptop, open it up, check out your dot files, run install to install your plugins, right? Some of them would be a different version, since someone pushed a few commits up the stream, and then now you get them, and all of a sudden your setup is broken. Oops. I know that Packer nowadays supports a feature called snapshots. I haven't looked too much into it, but I think it's a bit, it takes a shallow snapshot of your setup with some of the things, and they're not actually meant to go into your repository along with your configuration, which is a bit of a shame. It would, while the log files, you'd actually commit it along with all the rest of your Lua files, and then it'd be used the next time you run the install. I do know that there is a PR for log files in Packer, and I really look forward for it to being merged. And the last one is discoverability. Nowadays, it's a bit of a challenge for a plugin author to to make the plugin surface and get more people to see it and maybe even try it out. People would like post on Reddit, post on Twitter. There is this amazing thing called Awesome Neovim on GitHub. There is This Week in Neovim, which, like, oh god, I can praise it all day. But then if you just want to make a plugin, share it, and like let everyone use it, you still have to do this meta work to like surface it to more users. This is where I think a GitHub-based marketplace could really help. It doesn't have to be a standalone registry like NPM or Cargo. Think of it more like, let's say, what does Dino do, or I think Golang, they also use GitHub as the actual like where the dependencies are being pulled from. So that's pretty interesting. Overall, this is all of my talk, by the way. This is my login on GitHub and Twitter, Anton K52. If you have any questions, do hit me up on Twitter. And then that's it. Thanks a lot for your time.